Thank you for joining us on Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. This is number 127, I think. The gang is all here. We got Phil and Luff and John and Don and Bill and Jim and Mike and John and Alan and Dewan and Garth and J-Rod and Dennis and Brian and other people. Let's talk slot cars. I, of course, as I mentioned last week, have an updated version of the magnetic downforce scale apparatus to go over, and a couple other pictures that I thought would be fun to share, but I won't necessarily go first. Dennis already has his hand up to show and tell, but anybody else who wants to show or tell something, go ahead and raise your virtual hand so I make sure to get to you, and we'll try to give opportunity for people to chime in as well. So what do you want to show and tell today, Dennis?
All right, so last week I showed you that kit that came from CG Slot Cars in Massachusetts for the Sky Electric Barracuda, and so I've built it up, and this is what it looks like underneath now. It builds up really easily. Everything fits really nicely. I used a pretty generic, like a Piranha. It's motor 21, somewhere around there. It has slotted wheels and tires front and rear. It has slotted 1132 Sidewinder gears in there, 18 millimeter gear with a 6.5 millimeter pinion. The mesh is perfect. It has the new guide shoe that, or the new guide flag that comes with it, and then I just painted up getting over exposed, painted up the very nice wheel inserts that came with the car, or came with the kit, and fit directly into a slotted 15.8 millimeter wheel. And so that's the car. It's now 3 millimeters lower than a stock Sky Electric Challenger or Cuda. And at the front, you really have to do some filing on that front spoiler, right? It's almost down to where the little brake cooling holes are. But you've probably got to take nearly 1/8 of an inch off there to get it to clear. On the track, absolutely lovely, really, really nice. It runs very, very smooth. Handling is good. It takes a full interior, although you do have to do a little bit of cutting on the underneath of the interior just to clear the motor, because of course, being a slight angle winder, the motor is a little further forward than it was in the original car. So there's a little bit of cutting there, but you don't lose any of the detail, and you certainly can't see it from the top. There's nothing there that shows through. You don't actually cut into the seats at all. You cut into the back of the cockpit, and that was it. So that's a really nice little car now. Fun to drive and nice and low. And then I finished this one this week, which is the Revo Slot Escort. I wish I could say it was my superb painting skills that made it overexposed so badly, but it's actually the camera rather than the... Yeah. Anyway, so this is done up in the colors of a car that I remember racing in South Africa. There were two of them. There was one that ran in this Class X, which was the 1300 1.3 liter class, and then there was one that ran in the over 2 liter class that I've done before, that I did the 1/24 scale BRM Escort. But again, came out really nice. Runs really well.
It's a nice color combo.
Yeah, it works well, doesn't it? So yeah, I've got to have the two cars now, brother and sister, or siblings. Yeah.
Nice.
Very nice. Both great looking cars.
Yeah.
That chassis looks great on the Barracuda.
Yep. Okay, so that's me for today.
Awesome. Anybody got any questions for Dennis? All right, let's move along. And Brian, you've got your hand up. What's up?
Good evening. Got a little bit of an update. Let's see where to go. There it is. Having a little issue sharing screen here. Give me a second here. There we go. Can you see that?
Yep.
Yep.
So this is the chassis from last week that I showed. I've done some updates to it. One, I simplified the front end quite a bit. I don't know if you remember, it had a Y shape that tied in back here and fill in. And I went ahead and I just simplified it, and it added some stability to these front uprights here for the front axle. So it worked out very good. On this particular version, I do have mounting holes for screws. And I also lengthened the gusset a little bit here. You can see it runs about the length of the motor. This is an 84 millimeter wheelbase. And with the basic Piranha motor in it, I've gotten it around my track as fast as 6.23. My fastest mag cars are in the 5.5, 5.6 range. So it's doing pretty good. I played around a little bit with lead, but at this point, I think some of it's my driving skill as much as anything. I've put as much as 8 grams of lead in here, 4 on each side all the way back. And actually, it runs quite well that way. But when I ran the 6.2, I had about half that amount of lead in it. So some of it's still me learning to drive it. And it seems and I say that because I'll come down, I'll run a 30 laps, run a nice consistent 6.4s, 6.5s, may bang out at 6.3. I'll go upstairs for a while, come down 2 hours later, and I'll be lucky if I get a 6.7 out of it. So part of it's me. All up, this chassis fully assembled, weighed in at 48 grams.
Wow. Nice.
So I don't know how that is comparable to a solid brass chassis. But 48 grams.
Well, it's way lighter than a brass shit.
So obviously adding a Lexan body to this probably wouldn't hurt the alter the performance much. But I can't produce Lexan. I'm going to do some Lexan, hence the mounting holes. So I did start doing some design work on a body. And this is where I'm at. Let me shut this one off here. So this is kind of what I got going at the moment. Now, the inspiration here was wing car, the old wing cars from the 60s. And I originally had this going way up high, and I just didn't like it. And I had it shallow in the center all the way back. And I kind of ended up somewhere in between. So this is still in work in progress.
Isn't that more of a Group 12 than a wing car? I mean, wing cars, I don't know. Big air dams on the sides, right?
Yeah.
Right. And I thought about how I said that was the inspiration. It wasn't meant to be a full one. So again, it's just my design, my look.
It's really nice. It's very clean and neat.
This body, as it sits right now, weighs about 17 grams printed. So I have mounted it. I haven't printed this one. I had a different version, an earlier version that was a little different than this. I had some clearance issues that I didn't take into account. This solves all that. It will also allow you to ride. Like I said, this center section originally was recessed the whole length of the car instead of rising up into like a spoiler here. So you were kind of limited. You can see here were your tires. Now you could probably run 13s on this thing if you wanted to. I'm running 10s. Without too much problem. No more clearance problems, top of the motor, or anything like that. So let's see here. Let's see what's going on over there.
That's really nice. It's amazing that you guys, a couple of you guys are doing these types of designs. I just sit here and shake my head.
Yeah. Now, like I said, this was an 84 millimeter chassis, which is about the length of my Group C cars. Pretty close overall. So I went ahead and decided Whoop, so I did a second one. This one is a 75 millimeter chassis. So basically the same car, same body. Actually, I did the body on the 75 first, but it's only a 75 millimeter wheelbase. Now, the advantage on me, now you gotta remember, I'm running on a 15-year-old Sky Electric track with borders. The shorter one gives me a little more slide room before the ass end is banging into the guardrails.
Right.
So I actually, I think it looks a little nicer in the 75 in the body too. Because again, this was the original design. And then I just kind of added 10 millimeters to it to fit the other chassis. So
you mentioned you don't make Lexan bodies, but have you considered just a home DIY Lexan vac former?
yeah, I'm toying with that idea because I could make the bucks easy enough.
Yep.
So it's something I'm toying with. So this is what the body was actually designed for this chassis. It's a little nicer on the 75 than the 84, but all in all, not too bad. Only 2 grams of difference in weight between the two. This one weighed in at 46, full up. So with the body, it would weigh about 64 grams or 63. So I guess, you know, even adding, I've had as much as 8 grams on there. That's still only 71 grams with 8 grams of lead added, which I don't know if that's a lot or not. I also thought about doing a modified pan system where I could actually laminate sheets of brass to this, maybe underneath, hollow out a cavity where you would literally put the brass in it.
Yeah.
So a lot of options there as far as what can be done with these pans.
What tires are you running, Brian? You running silicones, urethanes, or rubber?
No, these are the backs. I'm running NSR 5206s.
Okay.
Super grips. And on the front, the ones I've got on it right now are the ones from the slotted Ferrari 312s.
Okay.
Tiny.
So you're running rubber. You're running rubber tires. That's fine.
Yes, sir. Now the fronts don't touch at all. I've got set screws in the bottom. I have them just off the track. And actually, the 68 millimeter chassis right now has a set of my O-rings on it. And the 84 has the O-rings on it. The shorter chassis has the ones from the 312Bs.
Okay.
I was hoping to have a video to show you guys how it looked, what a 6.5 second lap looks like on my track, but I can't do it by myself, and my son didn't make it today. So
yeah, you may be able to play around there. Generally, rubber tired cars favor a little more weight than silicone and or urethane tired cars. And then with such a light chassis coupled with a not so light body, it might be a good idea to play around with a few more grams on the, play around with a few more grams on the chassis weight.
yeah, I didn't want to get too tied up into the weight until I got a body on it because I knew it was gonna really alter things. Running the bare chassis is a blast. My son and I have had a lot of fun doing that. I did experiment with both rubber and Paul gauge urethanes, identical sizes. I didn't care for the urethanes quite as much. They stayed cleaner a little longer, but the rubber felt better. The rubber had a better feel to it.
Yeah.
And
No
I stuck
question.
with that.
Well, that's always one of the proof in the pudding things with guys is, that about weight of the body. You tell the guys, well, take the body off and drive the car around the track and see how it goes. And, they do. And oh, man, that's great. Well, that's, depicts how much weight on that body is detrimental to handling. So,
yeah, well, that's where the Lexan would definitely be an advantage as far as performance goes, I'm sure. And I'm still gonna try to sweet talk Dennis and see if maybe he's got some suggestions for me, because I can do pin tubes on this easy enough. Like I said, I tried the urethane, I tried the rubber, back and forth, back and forth. I also originally had CD Design aluminum wheels front and back on it. And I ended up going to the slotted plastic. The car accelerated so much quicker with the plastic wheels that I went ahead and stayed with that. So kind of show you what we're at right now.
What guide are you using?
I can't tell. Oh, my video on there. Gotta get myself in here so I can see what I'm showing. Okay. So that's the short chassis. I also, on the chassis, I incorporate a little bit of wire management there up front. Keep them tucked up under the axles, not rubbing. You see, there's very little movement in these up and down. 927 gearing in the back. Now, this is the long brass chassis. Now, the other thing I did is originally, you can see I got the brass rods all the way through on this one, where on the short one, I'm using just pins. The problem I had with this, I've got piano wire on the way, is originally I had the rods tight on the end pieces mounted on the chassis and loose through the pan. Well, the problem with that is if I got any twist in the chassis, it would bind and the twist would stay. It wouldn't stay flat. So I changed it where I'm now tight through the pans and the holes are loose on the chassis, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Pinned, it didn't make a difference, but if I ran the full length rod, it does. Again, I'm a total novice at this. I don't know how much flex I want to see here. Do I want that super stiff? Do I want? I assume some flex is good. And again, you can see the O-ring wheels there.
It's basically pretty hard to make a chassis too stiff on a longitudinal basis.
Okay, so you want as little flex
with on a flat track on if you were on a wood track with a longer straight and a bit of bank, I would say that was way too soft. However, given what you're running, it's probably just fine. If you don't see any axle flipping,
I figured smooth with a smooth track, stiffer chassis. Am I also running this a little loose? I mean, I'm getting pretty good movement out of that as far as like body float. So again, I need to play with that a little bit too. So, but I'm very happy with how it's getting around the track.
Yeah.
So
bumpy tracks, more movement, smooth tracks, less movement.
Terrific. I do have one question as far as, since I'm mounting a hard body here. Now you see, I put 4 mounts on there. Is there any advantage to only maybe using 2 with the mount in the middle of the pan as opposed to the 4? Is there any disadvantage to what I'm doing here, or?
Don't think so.
6 of one, half dozen the other, doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah.
As long as they're loose.
If you put it in the middle, you're still going to have something fore and aft so that the body doesn't rock back and forward if it's loose.
And that was kind of the thought on the 4. So
you might as well just use the 4.
Yeah.
And I kind of assumed mounting it to the pans was preferable than mounting it to the chassis, correct?
Again, it depends. I've seen a lot of very successful cars where the chassis is mounted, where the body's mounted on 2 central posts, and it still has pans that flap up and down. But then the pan is doing a different job. Then the pan is basically just a damper, and it's rattling up and down to absorb vibration. It's not allowing the body movement. The body movement's then controlled by the posts and the screws. But both of them seem to work quite well.
Yep. You got to play around, Brian. I mean, securing the pans, securing movable pans to the body, you're basically adding weight to the body and taking it off of the chassis to a degree. So if you've got a light chassis to start with, and then you're taking some of that weight and adding it onto the body becomes in corners more of a detrimental effect. When the pans raise and then stop, there's more inertia to try and pull the whole car off the track. So play around with it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do one up with mounting it to the chassis and we'll see how it goes. Actually, I was surprised. I got there was a fair amount of interest in this. I had several people message me wondering where the link was. And I hadn't finished it yet. So, but it's out there now. Greg kindly added it to the comments or the description from last week if anybody's interested. I'd love to see somebody who knows what they're doing do one up and see what they could do with it, or see what it did on a smooth track. And I'm also, playing around. Once I get the piano wire in, it'll be interesting to see the difference between running that full length piece of wire versus running just pins too. I imagine that's probably be more important on a flat, smooth, fast, banked track than it would on my flat, bumpy Sky Electrics.
And I'll
I don't think you're going to notice as much of a difference on a plastic track, right?
And I'll put a link.
Well, it does add weight.
I'll put a link to your chassis in this video description as well for anybody who's just watching this video. But yeah, I think that's.
I put one in there. I put one in there prior to you start the recording. Will that show?
Oh yeah,
I forgot. Henry had asked about the other one, the pod chassis for the stiletto, the new stiletto I did.
Yeah, I can grab it from there. But I'll probably just put a link to your TinkerCAD profile page where all of your public documents are then showed on that page. And so the stiletto and the pan chassis, anything that you've made public will be accessible.
Well, see, I didn't make them public. If you don't have the link, you can't get there.
Okay, well, I'll make sure that the link that I put works.
You can test them out.
Okay, I'll definitely test them before I post them. So yeah, links in the description should get you to Brian's pan chassis at the very least. And yeah, I think that's really cool. And the version that you were just showing off is the one that has already been made public, right? That you shared on HRW and stuff. Same version. Like you haven't done any revisions since then. I guess he doesn't realize he's muted, but we'll just assume there's a yes answer to that question.
Yes.
All right.
That is a yes.
Okay, thanks, Brian. All right, next up, Bill. Go ahead, Mr. Royle.
Brief, just layout. I sent over a link over to Greg. I don't know. I've spent a lot of time on the track lately, or on the layout, and I finally put down more paint, so there's not as much snow on the layout, which makes a big difference, I think, in terms of the overall, the overall appearance. Overall, real happy with yesterday or last night was the first time I'm real happy with. Anyway, I'll get out of the way.
I was just gonna.
Go ahead, Greg.
I didn't mean to actually have the sound going through then, but I was going to load it up and share it, but I'll go ahead and share it now since you're talking about it, because I watched it this morning and that's fantastic. I love it. So. You probably can't hear the sound, so you're welcome to talk about what we're looking at.
So I've completed all of the fencing. You guys had said, you got to get some nets around the sides for the cars that are going to go flying off. So that job is done. All around it, it's an 8x12 layout. All around it, you'll see there are fence slats there now. That fence spans basically the entirety of the track. It's about 1,340. I did the math. I'm pleased I had the patience to get through it. Each one put in by hand. Everything's individually glued.
Oh my God.
And then you could see, kind of starting. So the brown that you see there is just basically, that's the dirt. Yeah. So everything that goes on top of it, the grass, whatever, you mar it, that's what you're going to see instead of, just a bright white. And then the masks, you could see there that little where it went black there for a minute.
Yeah, that was awesome. Camera. That's awesome.
It's giving me problems on that one camera, but see this backdrop there that you see there is just, that shows you the trick. I mean, there's nothing to it. It's just, trace. That's all you're doing. But it makes, the ambiance of the layout so much nicer for whoever's viewing it.
Bill, could you honestly, could you please put a link to your YouTube channel in the chat? Because I was certain I couldn't find it.
Yeah, he posted the link to this video in the chat, so I'll make sure that the link to this video is in the description, and there.
Yeah, because you need more subscribers.
Yeah, I'm good with that. And it's basically, I mean, I'm updating this throughout the week. I really enjoy doing it. It gives, it's looking at new challenges all the time. And I mean, I'm literally, one of my next steps is just standing there. I'll do it tonight. Stand there, stare at it and say, what do we need next? And then that becomes the project. There's still painting a lot that needs to happen, but for the first time, I really just feel like it's kind of fleshing itself out now in a way that before it just felt like I was walking into a partially built home, if that,
so
you know what I mean? The completed home versus the structure, just the skeleton.
I'm sure you've already thought about this, but I don't know. I don't think we've shown much detail on the animated things that are on Russ's layout, but Russ's layout is just chock-a-block full of animated things. So I'm just thinking each of those camera views needs to have some animated thing that doesn't obstruct the view of the track, but where there's no cars running, just some kind of little animated thing, like, a guy with a hot dog, or, the blinking sign or whatever. That kind of stuff. That'll be awesome.
Well, there's like on that the drive-in, I think I may have told you guys this already, but on the drive-in movie screen or the the wooden screen there, you can actually, there's some trickery that I have to do with the software there, but I have set it up in the past to where you can actually see the output from another camera in there, as though the spectators are able to see a different part of the track that they normally wouldn't be able to, which you would see at some places. So stuff like that. But yeah, the animated, I can't wait to get into the electronic stuff, because that's much more what I'm used to. This stuff is just, it's cool because I'm so used to doing it, making everything perfect. And with this, you have to get used to, well, yeah, no, that's not quite perfect. And so what do you do next? And so I'm calling this character development somewhere in there too.
Well, the other thing, Bill, too, when you're doing scenery, though, the imperfection, it brings it, to life.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's, I'm trying to make sure there are no straight lines essentially on the track. And that follows through with my driving too. So I will say right now, I might have put some of those rock mold, some of the rock has to come out in a couple of small spots, just because when a car hits them, it really is hard on the car. So I've had to do a couple of repairs already just in testing, but that's where I'm at.
I gather you're mainly going to be running your cars with magnets, so it's not going to really matter as much.
To some degree,
it'll be more catastrophic.
For more, but I mean, more as I move along, I'm trying to do less and less magnet racing. So in this case, where I had a bunch of rocks, and kind of you just had to go a little more carefully around the corner. Now I have a shoulder there because I just want to have at least a little more of a challenge in there. It'll beat your car all to hell if you don't slow down, but it's still better than just kind of doing a real slowdown and just chugging your way around. So
bushes,
getting there.
Bushes.
Oh. That part I'm a little intimidated by, but that'll happen pretty soon.
Or rubber rocks.
Yeah,
rubber rocks.
Tire walls, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I got a couple of bags of tires still I haven't thrown on there. I had to clear everything off when I went to go and repaint everything, or kind of make everything brown instead of brown plus plaster here and splatter here and all of that. So it's a little more of a fun place instead of just a work area now. So
well, it's looking great, Bill.
Yeah, thanks for showing that off. Definitely looking forward to future progress on that.
Yeah,
and
forgive me for when you do see videos on there on my channel. I'm really just posting it. It's kind of a workspace, so don't take it too seriously, is what I would say for production value. I'm not a particularly adept editor. I'm just like, hey, this is what I'm doing today.
It shows the work. That's the most important thing. Gee.
Yeah, we're not expecting MGM here. We're just a bunch of dudes having fun, right? So
well, that's good.
Okay, all right, understood.
Hey, well, thank you.
All right, Alan, you took your hand down. Did you decide not to show and tell something? What's going on? Mr. Lautenschlager. You're muted. I'll assume you changed your mind.
There, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. I have been fighting PC problems all day. What I was going to show just crashed just before. So what it was basically files became available for the new Corvette C8.
Yeah.
For those who were crazy about that. And I'll try and see if I can bring it up again, although I don't know. We'll give it a shot.
Is this Vlad stuff or somebody else on Coles 3D or?
It's a gentleman out of Holland that sometimes I get some stuff from. And of course, I get the majority of my stuff from VLAD. There we go.
You're welcome to drop a link in the chat and I'll be sure and put it in the description. Oh, yeah. Every time I see one of those around town, the first thing in my head is, ooh, Ferrari.
Yeah.
Ugly Ferrari.
Very cool.
Pretty nice.
Have you printed
That's
one?
80. Yeah, it's in the process of being printed now, and it's a 84 millimeter wheelbase, which I've got a NCR chassis inbound for it. It should fit like a glove.
NCR, what's that?
That's it from here.
NSR probably.
NSR?
Yeah, NSR. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no worries. It's all good. Okay, well, I guess it's my turn. Anybody else has anything to show and tell? Go ahead and put up your virtual hand. I'm going to do mine real quick.
Okay, go.
Okay, we'll get to you after me. Okay, so who doesn't love taking pictures of beautiful slot cars? Nobody. So when we start a new series, a lot of times the guys will say, hey, everybody put your car on the track and we'll take pictures of the cars. So this is our Ninco Classic Series cars being photographed here. And of course, you can't not have the photo of the guys taking pictures of the cars. Yes, we're a bunch of little kids taking pictures of our cool toys.
And this is not your track, Greg.
No, this is
That is awesome.
This is one of the other tracks.
That is awesome.
4-lane analog track. Yeah, so gotta have fun with that. But as I said, I'll go over the most current version of the magnetic downforce scale apparatus. This is showing a picture of the new adjustable rail height apparatus. This is the rails at flush with the plate. And this is the rails at proud from the plate, about 1 millimeter, and down below the plate at about 2 millimeters. And because it's adjustable, that means I can try to make things match. So I took a reading of a car on my Magnum Marshall. That's the weight at 89 grams. And it looks like my scale is not entirely exact with the Magnet Marshall scale at 87 grams. I think it was showing 88 right before I took the picture, but whatevs. So after tearing out the weight, the car measured at 133 grams of magnetic downforce. So then I tweaked and turned the nuts and screws to move up and down the rail until the car read 130. That's as close as I could get on my device, which was the whole purpose of being adjustable. What I discovered during this process is the problem with having a continuous rail from back to front is that the guide and the braids can relieve weight on the rail. Whereas on the Magnet Marshall, you've got the guide and braid are on the scale, not the rail. So I'm already milling about ideas on how to modify the design so that the wheels and the guide, and therefore the braids, are on the scale, not the rails. But that will complicate the printing and the assembly and the necessary things you need to do to make this work. But I was able to get basically
that match. Did you put the rails below the surface height? That it looks like they're slightly lower.
you know, I don't remember how much lower or higher they were from the plate. But once I realized what was happening with the guide and the braids relieving pressure by resting on the rails, I removed the braid plate on the Sky Electric Sport guide, because you can just pop that off without removing the guide. That allowed me to get at, because I was basically moving it up and down like crazy and not being able to get it to read the same. And I'm like, why not? Then I finally, you know, my brain clicked and I realized what was happening. So just by removing the braid plate, I was able to move the rail to an appropriate height to get that reading, which is why I know why that's a bad, why that is now another concern with this kind of design. So, well, you know, I don't.
Maybe your design's correct, Greg. And I've played around with enough magnet marshals, and everyone's different. So.
Yeah, and I've had a very long conversation online on Slot Forum, you know, about how it's just a comparative device and blah blah blah. And even the Magnet Marshal 2 has adjustable, you know, adjustments to match a Magnet Marshal. But at the same time, when I was first messing around with this, the kind of magnetic downforce readings I was getting was just all over the place. It was like 20 and 50, and you know, it's just like, what? You know, it didn't make any sense. So, you know, when I'm talking about this device, like you're kind of heading towards there, is just a comparative device. You really can't say this device matches other readings on other devices unless you can get them both side by side with the same car and tweak it to make the same car read on both devices the same amount.
Yeah.
But
even if you do, you're less than 0.75% difference.
Yeah. In this case, but you know,
like it's yeah.
But what I was going to get at is, you get what you pay for. So the Magnet Marshal, very expensive piece of hardware, but a lot more precise, a lot more consistency from device to device. So Magnet Marshals might differ from one another by a gram or 2 or 3 or 4, but not like this one, you know, differing by 20 or 30 or 40 grams. But that also means that if you're wanting to build a device like this, don't cheap out on the scale. I mean, don't you know, buy like Gordon Ramsay scale, but you know, get a decent scale that doesn't have a wobbly ass platform. This platform is just wobbly as all get out. So you get a decent scale that's got a solid platform that doesn't wobble, and you can probably get this to be fairly accurate and replicable. Like you can, like, you know, take the car off and put it down, and it'll still read the same amount every time you plop it down. Whereas in this case, this scale is such garbage that I could take that car off and plop it down, and it'll probably read 120, you know, or 150 or something like that. So I decided, because I already have the expensive version, I decided not to go buy a you know, half decent scale to show that it can be done. But it can be done. Anyways, that's the end of that long and fraught with problems tale of woe. We have a couple more hands up. Did you want to do your show and tell now, Chris?
Sure. This is a tell, and it is absolutely has nothing to do with slot cars. Okay. But since our group here seems to be generally less, or actually generally older than teenagers, health is an important thing, and this is a health advance thing. I, on Monday, had a complete new knee put in my left knee. I had a total knee replacement on Monday. I went in, the operation started at 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2:30 that afternoon, I was home and walking around outside my house with a completely brand new knee. So all you old fuckers out there who are worried about getting stuff replaced, Don't worry about it. Technology's on our side.
That's
amazing.
Hey, what size skate do you wear? I'll send you a pair.
Yeah. Well, this was a 50-year-old, 50-year-old football injury. So but the technology is just absolutely. When I had my first knee surgery 50 years ago, it was to repair an ACL, which they sewed back up, and I was in the hospital for 9 days.
Yeah.
On Monday, I had a whole knee replacement, and 4.5 hours later, I was completely clear-headed and walking around. I'm not walking like I'm not, I have a cane and I'm sort of hobbling around, but I managed to walk around our block at home in 4.5 hours after total knee surgery. So there's hope for all you old buggers out there as well.
As long as you're in
any idea how many more parts you need to be replaced to officially be considered a cyborg?
Yeah. 0.
Well, pretty much in the last couple of years, I've had both my hips replaced and a knee replaced. So
wow, and you didn't make the parts yourself at home, did you? Out of brass and piano wire?
No.
No, he got Greg to 3D print them.
I was just gonna. Hey, and that's Canada for you.
He'll be the $6 million man soon.
I was gonna say, down in the States, it'd be a $6 million man because it would cost that.
All I know is playing football. You must have really gotten off that bench fast to hurt your knee.
I did.
Whoops! Crunch.
It actually happened in Hawaii.
Ooh, you played down in Hawaii?
I played. Well, I didn't play. I had a tryout with the Rainbow Warriors, which is the Hawaii college team, Division II team. As quarterback, I was there for 6 days. I planted my left leg to throw and got hit directly in front of the knee by a linebacker. So my toe came up, my knee went the other way. Like my toes came up to my face.
Okay, you can stop
You
now.
did a Graham Hill only in football.
Yeah. So my U.S. college football career lasted 6 days. And needless to say, after that, they were not offering any big scholarships and stuff for me. They just basically paid for me to come home and go to the hospital. So
you had that slot car thing to fall back on.
Yep.
And just an ACL.
Sorry?
Just the ACL got taken out.
Well, yes.
I thought there'd be more damage than that.
Well, you would think. I was keen to get back to do a bunch of sports. And at the time, they had just developed Gore-Tex knee ligaments. So I had the first Gore-Tex knee ligament put in, which was, it didn't have to knit. They just basically screwed this strip of Gore-Tex into the upper and bottom part of the knee. I thought this was wonderful, but what they don't tell you is Gore-Tex is just a piece, it's a type of plastic basically. And like a credit card, it has a finite number of bends in it. So several years ago, it went past its best before date and just snapped as well. So I haven't had a proper ACL for 15 years, and I wore a hyperextension, a Don Joy hyperextension brace for years and years and years. But anyway, the way this is going, I suspect, in 10 years, you'll be able to just take a pill and they'll just grow a brand new knee for you. Like it's going to be.
Well, yeah. Stem cells are getting like that. You're absolutely right.
I think I'll wait for that.
Yeah.
Well, good to hear you're back on your feet
and
racing and causing all kinds of trouble. So let's continue on with slot car stuff. Mike, you've got your hand up, and then we'll get to Vlad.
Just to know, so Chris knows I'm not blowing smoke.
Good for you.
Yeah, look
good for
nice,
you.
Nice work.
And that was the first version, which was made too wide, so it didn't fit in the car. So anyway, that's what's going on here.
Hold that one up again.
Good for you, man.
Hot in it.
with the pot in it.
Yeah. There we go. Show us those sockets.
No, they're terrible.
That's look pretty clean to me.
No, I didn't get the thinner solder yet.
That's okay.
And that's with your new iron?
Yep, it is.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's
Hey.
good.
Great start. Good job.
He was blowing smoke. He was smoke.
We'll
smoke
see
was
how
coming
it
up in the
works.
faces of the sunlight.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right, Wayne. It was smoke from the flux.
Yep.
Not
Actually,
something
I
that-
just built this one morning, so
Nice.
He was smoking something.
you bet.
I just love how in 10 minutes we run the gamut from 3D chassis that are designed like the old piano wire and brass, and then we see the sort of piano wire and brass.
Yep. That's what makes
You go
this
through the whole
so great.
thing. I have another thing in line with Chris and biomechanical things. I have new eyes. I can finally see. Yeah, not laser ones. I wish, because I could do a lot of good things with that. But
Amazing, isn't it?
for the first time in my life, I can see more than 5 feet ahead of me.
So, Michael, what you're saying is
without
that
my
the
glasses,
eyes
can
have
actually
it. Is that what you're saying? The eyes have it.
Yeah,
All
the
you
eyes
need
have.
is a brain now.
Yeah, well,
If only had a brain.
what can I say?
It's overrated.
Stuck with what I got.
Guys that look once.
When you got looks, you don't need brains.
Yeah,
All right.
Well, I heard they had
or money or friends. Those are the things. Yeah.
Yeah, they're working on a Gore-Tex one. It's okay. Don't worry.
Yep. It'll last for a little while.
Mike, are those just readers now? Are you just wearing reading glasses now?
No, what I opted for is a not 20/20 vision when I take my glasses off, because that way I can see stuff easily working on it without my glasses, and I'm really used to that, seeing stuff up close. So I don't know. I'm kind of rethinking what I did there, but because it turns out what I have to do is take my glasses off when I'm reading and put them on for driving and other stuff. So it worked okay, but we'll see. The jury's out yet. But I can tell you that getting your cataracts fixed, don't wait. My God.
No.
Yeah.
I waited much longer than I should have. And there's a huge benefit to seeing at night, especially driving.
Yeah.
And that's a real important thing. Yeah. So
Amazing how much glare
great.
is gone now.
Yeah. Yeah, the glare is completely gone. What it used to be with the cataracts, I would, a lot of times when I get, especially the LED lights in the cars now, would be really, really difficult to see. And, almost I had to turn my head the other way. It was so bad.
We're becoming human slot cars. We're just trading parts and everything. This is great.
Hey, well, you can fix anything.
We'll have to see if your lap times go down.
Well, I'll find out. Oh, speaking of that, as long as I've got Dennis and Chris here, only if I can find it. I have this retro. Is there anything I should do to improve this?
God, what's
for what purpose?
Where do you, and you're running in this with a local commercial truck?
Yeah.
Some new rear tires look like they'd be in order.
Well, yeah, that's a given, because they haven't been
for the rest.
years.
Well, it very much depends on the rules that you're running to, whether that motor is allowed or not.
Yeah.
But
The
if
motor
the local
is
rules
given.
allow that motor, then
The motor's
run
a
it and
given.
see.
Yeah. Anyway, I fixed a little bit of the floppy pan. There were a couple of the wires that were out, and with my brand new soldering iron, I fixed that. But I was wondering if you had any ideas on whether this is a decent design or what. I know that
It's
things
not
have
bad.
moved on.
Yeah, just
Pretty much,
I would,
you know.
And did you buy that used or something, Mike?
Yeah, I bought it used.
Okay, just I mean,
I traded it for some other stuff, and I bought it used. It's an old Tom Hansen design.
Yeah.
But I was just curious if you guys had any ideas on anything I should try to improve.
I mean, the
sure
first and foremost thing, you need to put it on a flat block and make sure it's flat.
Yeah, that I did.
And then it's track specific and experimenting with different weights here and there, and all the rest of the stuff.
Okay,
is my audio working?
Pardon me?
Is my audio working?
Yep.
Yeah, it is.
You can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, who's on first?
Dennis, what advice do you have for Mike?
No, I was just going to say, make sure that it's flat and straight. You may want to replace front and rear wheels, because the front tires are important on those cars, and they need to be nice and hard and round. If they're starting to get a little soft and squishy, the car won't handle as well.
Okay.
The most important thing is the front end of the car has to be really, really low. When it's standing on its wheels without the guide involved, it should, the clearance under the front of the car should be no more than 15 thousandths of an inch.
Okay.
And then make sure that the guide, put the car on a block that has the same recess as the track, and make sure that the pressure on the braid is not holding the front wheels off the track, because you want the car to ride on its front wheels, but still have a decent amount of pressure on the braids. Those are the first
idea
things.
is to have them just hit the track, or actually support the.
Well, I like to see the car supported. So I'll put the car on the track without a body on, and then I'll actually press down on the guide nut. And I want to see that the rear wheels will actually lift off the track about 5 thousandths or 10 thousandths of an inch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then make sure that the guide is swiveling nice and easily, but it's not sloppy. And what else was I going to say? Be ready to try and limit the amount of pan movement, because maybe there's still quite a lot on there and it may not need it. And I didn't see the body, so I don't know what that body was. Oh, the Palmer TI-22 long, and the wide nose one. There are, depending on which group you're running with, there are probably a dozen different versions of the TI-22 body that are legal. And some work better than others on different tracks. That one will work on a flattish track. I don't know what you're running up. It's probably it's a hill climb.
It's called the Green Hornet Raceway. It's in Malaga, Washington. It's got one bank turn on it. The rest of it is mostly flat.
Yeah,
and then of course a rise to come over the crossover.
Yeah.
So
that'll probably be a good body to start with.
Okay. This is what most of the guys are using.
Good. Well, then that's the way to start. Always.
Yeah.
And the tires, you'll probably want to use JK8703 PPs.
The last time it was run, they changed the glue. This is a glued track.
Yeah.
So most of the guys were saying that the PPs did not work as well as the regular JKs. So don't know. I'll have to find out Saturday.
You're talking the PP as opposed to a regular P?
Yeah.
Or a PT?
No, PP, double P.
Double P. Well, that's just for the
regular
rubber,
Ps work better than the double P.
Oh, okay. That's going to be a moot point now anyway, depending on what you can buy, because the formulation of that foam has changed lately. The thing that I would try as well, if you can get some, is some Alpha Piranha. rubber.
Oh yeah, I've got some of those.
And I would always go with the smallest wheel hub that you can. So you want to run between a 375 and a 400 hub.
I don't know if you can see. Pretty small.
Those are a little big already.
Yeah.
No,
really?
maybe not. Yeah, no, those are okay. So between a 375 and a 400 hub, maybe 420 at the biggest. But if you go bigger than that, the cars tend to hang on in the turn and then let go suddenly. Whereas if you have a smaller hub, then the thumb starts to fold under a little and you get a more progressive slide at the end of the turn. And if you ever need to add weight to the car, you start adding weight at the back.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
And what would indicate weight?
Well, the first thing you got to watch is where does the car come out? If it comes out in the corner. If it comes out on the way in and it bicycles out with the front leaving the slot first, then you need weight at the back of the car.
Okay.
If the car goes in and the tail starts to slide and then it comes out tail first, then you need weight at the front of the car.
Okay.
It's exactly the opposite to what everybody thinks. Because to get more slide, you want the weight at the back. You've got to think. You've got to think pendulum action and not friction. At the front. Say again.
Understeer, weight at the back. Oversteer, weight at the front.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Okay.
No, oversteer. Yeah.
Yeah. Oversteer means that the tail's coming out.
The tail comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that chassis, by the looks of it, I would think that if you're ever going to need any weight, it's going to be at the rear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good stuff. Keep us
all right. Well,
keep us up to date on that.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
Good.
I will let you know next week with Club Corner because it's the first time I've been back to the track in 3 years. So with new eyes and new tires and getting the cars set up a little bit, we'll see how it goes.
What's the name of the track? What was the name of the track?
Green Hornet Raceways in Malaga, Washington.
If you can, take some photos and share them, Michael.
Yeah. There's probably going to be a dozen guys or so. I'm usually a B main guy. I've come within a half inch of winning a B main. That's been my claim to fame. And a bunch of seconds and thirds in the B.
Well, go early, take some pictures, get some practice in, and do your best.
I will.
So looking
I
forward.
Put a different trigger on my DeFalco, so I'm going to see that it's more like what I like. The original DeFalco is quite curved, and this one is much straighter, and I prefer that. So
that'll probably help quite a bit.
Yeah, well, I hope so. It could go the other way.
It's amazing how much controller ergonomics play into how well you drive.
Yep.
All right, thanks, Mike. And let's. What is that, Jim?
It looks like a pretty fast track.
You got a picture of it?
They're doing.
Can you do a screen share? Oh my God!
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 123 feet long, and the LMPs are doing less than 4 seconds.
That's it. I was thinking lower.
Yeah, well, it's pretty quick. You can lose your car very quickly.
Oh, okay. So just one bank turn. Or one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's only
even
one.
That's not very steep.
I was gonna say I didn't see a high bank of them.
That's a flattish bank track, a very flat bank track.
Not a flat track, but not a high bank track.
Well,
Right.
It's like a flattish hill climb.
It's a flank track. A flank track.
Flank.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
it is the same for everybody.
tell us all about that next week, Mike. And let us move on to Mr. Vlad. Go ahead. What you got to share this week, Vlad?
Hey all, how you all been? Hopefully well. I just wanted just a quick update on a few little things. I'll share screen. Let me know if you can see everything.
Yeah, lots of things.
Yeah. Oh, hang on a sec. I'll start with this. I gradually, again, thanks to Phil, again, he sent that NSR F1 to me. So I just refined the little model for the chassis I was using. So made it a little bit better and better, and we got dimensions a little bit better. So now down to the body, these little struts. And so that's almost ready to send off to be printed, and then tried on a chassis. Here's again, did this throughout the back. So any body that I get now, I'll sort of fit it in here, and then these struts and these other bits will all fall into that. Oh, hang on, over here, you can see.
Are you also printing? Are you also printing the driver too?
Yeah, if you want to, you can print the driver too. I made it in a little bit of a tray, but yeah, I'll make it so you can print the driver too, or we'll do the bottom part of it so you can do a vac form.
It looks great. It looks just great.
Thank you. And so over here again, we cut the body out. So what I have here is these are the little building blocks that when you have a body, you'll put it on top, and then you can use these just to clean it up to make it sort of work on the chassis. Because over here, you can see at the back here, that bulb is to clear the gears. I mean, I could probably refine that a bit better, but that was one. Someone mentioned the Tyrrell. So the Tyrrell actually,
you really did count the rivets.
Hang on a second. Unhide last. There we go. So there's the chassis now, and the Tyrrell fits really nice.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. So maybe with a little bit wider so the front wheels can sort of clear a bit. But that wouldn't take much to produce as a model. You know, clean that up a bit, and yeah, it should fit right onto the NSR chassis. That's that one. Then I thought, why not look at the T330?
Oh, so you're doing Formula 5000 too?
Yep.
I can't wait to get your hands on that one.
These are all to fit on the NSR chassis, right?
Oh, that's great.
Correct. So again, if you don't mind that sort of thing hanging over, you can even make it.
Scissors will take care of that, won't they?
Yeah. Well, you know, the wheelbase matches virtually perfectly. So again, you might be a fraction out of scale, but this is one of the great things. You can have
who cares?
One to 32, 1 to 34 running on your track. You know,
but there's no one making an F5000 car. That's awesome.
Right.
Oh.
My guys down here would love us some of them to run next year.
Yeah. Well, look, I think if someone was doing vac form bodies for the NSR chassis, I think that would be a better market, because now you've got a really lightweight body. These are going to weigh a bit. These are not going to be as thin or as light as the one that's already on it.
Yeah, but the buck's already there, Vlad. That's it. Yeah. I can back form straight over that.
Yeah. Well, I can produce these more to be vac form better. Like use your resin printer and it'll be better that way.
But don't worry, it's got a 5-liter engine. It'll go like the clappers.
Well, look,
they're brilliant.
Well, look, talking about refitting things for chassis. For Jeremy, I did a few. I did these ones that were extended to fit the SRC chassis, and I think we did this one as well. Did the Volvo as well. So, getting out a few for him, and last but not least, the Glickenhaus.
Yeah.
we finally got a decent print. I mean, again, big thank you to Stefano. I just did the body. He took it over and he produced the chassis for it. And so we're at a point now where the rear view mirrors are a separate piece. The rear wings are a separate piece. The chassis, again, ready to go. So that should be out pretty soon for everyone if anyone wants to make it.
Yeah.
And because everyone likes hypercars, let me throw one more out there. Hang on. I think this is I think everybody likes a Peugeot or Renault. Is it the Renault? Could be the Renault. The 1200 9X8. I think it's a Renault.
That's the Peugeot.
Oh, Peugeot.
9X8 is a Peugeot.
That's on its way as well. I'm almost done with that.
Wow.
And we'll get that ready so people can race. I'll probably hand it over to Stefano again, and he'll produce the chassis for it.
Okay, you got to help a guy out.
You got to put a link in there.
Awesome. You got to put a link somewhere. I mean, people are going to be posting comments on this, going, "Where do I get these bodies?"
Oh no, they'll be freely available.
Yeah, but where?
What's the layout here?
Most likely on Colts. We'll put them up on Colts.
3D. Okay.
Yeah. Whoever wants them to just download and use. I mean, but again, a huge thank you to Stefano as well for the work he put into it. Yeah, he did some great work. I might have a go at doing a chassis myself at some point, like from scratch, but no, he did some great work.
At this
point, all these inline chassis that you're designing over.
Beg your pardon?
Are these all inline type chassis that you're intending to design over, or will they accept sidewinders, angle winders?
Well, this one, I think he's made it so it's accept an angle winder.
And a sidewinder.
I think it does a sidewinder with that
as long as there's clearance in the body.
I was going to say the body matters too.
Yeah, it's a fairly wide body, and in comparison to, here we go. That's a comparison to the slotted car. That's how much bigger is the white car. But
the orange is slotted or the white is slotted?
The white is the glick and the red is the slotted.
Okay.
So, but wheelbase is the same. Sorry, the width is the same, 63 and 63. The wheelbase is quite a bit different, but the wheelbase for, but it's not by much. 6 mil. It's not much.
Quarter of an inch. That's a lot.
Is it 6 mil?
Yeah. But, you really need to give us the option to put MX16 in Sidewinder configuration. That's often difficult underneath the rear deck of an LMP style body shell. But if these can, then they'll certainly get use over in the UK.
Right.
I was going to say,
I've got so many projects going at the moment.
Vlad, I'm sorry that all of them are mic drops. They're just great.
Yeah.
Oh, look again.
Wonderful.
Yeah, hang on. Please understand. These are not my work. These are models I found on the internet.
Well,
I just clean them up.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, but you still clean them up though to make it work as a slot car.
Yeah, that's
still a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Oh, look, there's a few bodies. I've done a few from scratch, but and they turned out really well. But
but they print. Yours print, Vlad. Half the others don't print out any good.
Well,
that's the thing.
Making something printable, just because you didn't, create the original geometry of the file doesn't mean that you didn't put absolutely.
Yeah, because Vlad, I mean, I do the same thing with die casts. I'll take a die cast and make it work for a slot car, and trust me, there's quite a bit of effort to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, a lot of these files you download won't print, successfully. Everything I get from Vlad just works.
Yeah.
Oh, well, look, I try to make sure. Look, again, it's been 3-4 years, almost 5 years now, that we went from bodies being 1.8 mil thick now down to 0.6 mil thick.
I look at all the work I put into that early HQ to get it successful. That first print, and now it's great.
Okay. Well, this is one that was totally from scratch, and I think you've seen a few prints of this already. It just prints so smooth, really nice.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, when I get time, unfortunately my work keeps me really busy. I just said to my boss just before, give me an hour, I just want to do something. He goes, yeah, no worries. But ideally, I'd love to retire. I've got a lot to keep me busy.
You won't have enough time.
I think we would love you to retire too.
Yeah, trust me, Vlad, you'll be busier retired than when you're working. Trust me.
Oh, really? There was some car that people mentioned last episode that they were after. I think near the end of the video.
We were talking about the 510 Datsun with some flares on it to go on the Revo slot.
Oh, yep.
I started playing with that, mate. Yeah, but I haven't gone any further with it.
Oh, okay. Well, look, we've got the 510.
Yeah.
Hang on,
I've got your 510, I think, but it needs some flares on it and a bit wider and a bit shorter to fit the Revo.
Oh, okay. Hang on. Let me share this one to you. I'll just get that one to you. Because what we did...
that's it.
Yeah, so what I did is, so that's how we were sort of fitting it to the SRC chassis.
Yeah.
So it was redrawn that. But since then, I'll show you, since then, it's become, let's see. There you go. So added some flares.
Yeah.
So so that was really it. Just added some flares all around, and that was it. I've tried doing the panel lines in a different way where because the model was good and it had separate pieces, I was able to make parts of it separate to other parts. And what that enables you to do then is to stretch it back or rescale the door a little bit to allow for a bit of a gap. And if the gap's big enough, when it prints, it sort of stitches around that gap, and then you get some nice panel lines. That's one way. Yeah. Another way is sort of, you do a mask and go over and cut it out. But I sort of tried to do that for this one where the hood, the boot and all those bits, try to get a little bit more detail onto the body.
Yeah.
So that means you don't really have to score the panel lines too much then.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Could you shorten that up easily, Vlad?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've been playing with
74.6 wheelbase.
74 I think originally it is 74.
No, I think it's a little bit longer from memory. I'm not sure. I've just got a Revo chassis sitting here. I'll send you some measurements after.
All right. Well, look, it depends on which Revo chassis. I've got a few Revo cars I can check.
No, this is to suit the Escort and the Alpha, mate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I've got, if we're doing the Escort and Alpha.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. Hang on, sorry. See here, this is the one where the panel lines are much deeper.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah. See, that's because when I do these bodies, they've got to be thickened 3 mil both ways, outside and inside.
Yeah.
As it goes to the thickness process. And so you've got to make it a certain depth for it to show up properly. And then you don't have to
when that prints, it actually prints with the gaps, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really nice because they're wide enough and they don't clog up.
Yeah.
And sometimes there may be, I think on another model, I did them too deep and too wide.
They come out fine in 24th.
Yeah. Oh, awesome.
Especially for a static for David.
Yeah. I'll quickly show you one more thing if you like.
The wheelbase on the Revo Escort is exactly 76 millimeters.
76? So that'll
76.
be right. That'll actually be right. I had, sorry about this. I just
65 Morgan plus 4. That's nice.
Here we go. Have a look at it. There's too many things you shouldn't see on that screen. Here we go. These are the next two cars we're going to set up for Jeremy. And so they all work on the SRC chassis. Yeah, huge. So a little Beamer and a little Alpha.
Very nice.
Oh, and really nice model I got for I'll leave that one. Don't worry about that one. That's it. That's it for me. So the thing is, if there's any models you guys like, let me know. Just send it over. I've got a huge library because I've been into. There you go, without the bumpers.
Well done, Jim.
Nice.
That's what Jim's suggesting.
Very nice.
Well, there's the flares the way they're racing them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little more curved.
Mm.
Okay.
I mean, they're all different. All the 510s that are racing now are all a little bit different, but that one has the probably the most protruding flares or obvious flares.
Mm.
Gotcha.
We probably need the body widened a bit to fit the Revo.
A little bit more. Yeah, we can do that. Again, I've been stretching it left, right, and center and different bits.
I mean, we can do that on the printer anyhow.
Yeah.
We do appreciate all the work you do, mate.
Oh, no.
Great.
No problem. Oh, hang on. There it is. I see a picture on John Webber's thing, the RX3.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a beautiful model of the RX3.
Cool.
A really, really nice high-res model. So,
Right.
So if anyone wants it, there you go. Oh, look at that. There you go.
Very interesting.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, mate.
Phil, is that what you're holding up, the RX3, Phil?
Yes, mate.
That's a nice model.
Oh, that's nice. There you go, John.
It just needs some flares on it because my brother-in-law raced one for a while and I was the mechanic on it. So I'm sort of keen to get one done.
Very nice.
Pretty. It's nice.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Hmm. Actually, Vlad would be interested. The car my brother-in-law raced was just taken out of the National Motor Museum here in Australia to a new owner. So it's quite a nice car. It's been fully restored. So, yeah.
Beautiful.
Did they really go,
Oh, they did, especially when you opened the exhaust up, John. My RX2 sort of shocked everyone when I used to run that around a bit.
John, they went home every other gas station.
Yeah, but they went quickly, Jim.
they went quickly between gas stations. Yeah.
Yes.
There we go.
Phil, do these body shells turn out to be a raceable weight?
Look, you can get them down to. I know that some of the Can-Am cars, we were able to get them down to about 8-9 grams.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like you can get it down to like the 4 millimeter, 0.4 thickness.
Mm.
If you do the body well, or even less than 0.6.
Mm.
But
has anybody printed your Glickenhaus, for example? And have you got any idea what that one ends up at?
Well, look, the one that we got at the moment, the one that Stefano worked on, he wanted that thicker. So I made that about 0.8 of a mil thick for him to work on. But I'll probably be printing other ones that are around about the 0.6. You can go less, but you really need to have some adjustments and touch-ups on your printer setup. And sometimes you're going to get that where you hold it up and you're going to see pinholes everywhere. And taking the internals out of it, all the supports, you're probably going to crush the body as well. It's going to break. But if you're happy to just push it back together, glue it, then you're fine. You're going to have a really light body.
But you can't finish them on the outside if you make them too thin. That's part of the problem. Yeah.
Correct. But I think if you can go now, I tend to believe that anything in 132, use it on a resin printer. You're going to get the high detail, and you can get now resins which are, they'll bounce back. They're fantastic.
How's your resin printer going?
Yeah. Beg your pardon?
How's your resin printer going?
It's untouched since I bought it over a year ago.
Those balls.
It's daunting because it's got a big build plate, and I'm scared. But I think 124, you can use your FDM printer on those, and you'll get a really great looking body.
Mm.
So
Well, good stuff. Thanks for sharing, Vlad. And
no problem.
Alan, are you ready to give it a try?
I showed that body already, but I wanted to, since we're talking about real thin walls and so forth, like Vlad's talking about, something I came up with a while ago, and I'm very pleased with the results. It's an acrylic gel that the ladies put on their fingernails.
And what do you?
And I brush that in on the inside of my body and then put that under a UV light.
Okay.
Build up a couple coats of that, and you'd be surprised how strong that body will become.
So it's a UV reactive clear gel nail product.
Yeah, when the ladies go to the nail salon or whatever, they put that top coat on, and then they stick their hand under a UV light for a little bit, and that cures it.
So basically,
my wife,
a process to harden front tires, and unfortunately on the track they started to chip, just like ladies' nails. But yeah, I have tried that. I have got the UV light device, and I've got the clear polish, and I haven't actually ever tried putting it inside a body shell. But I did coat tires with it.
Well, what the hell are you waiting for?
I'll have to find a Sky Electric body shell and have a go.
So not very
Give it
good
a
as
shot.
a front tire coat, but possibly more useful as a body strengthening solution.
And in worst case, you can always do your nails.
Yeah,
Exactly. Speaking of which, I had one other thing here, if I can find it. Yeah, I wanted to. Where's Michael? Michael, raise your head.
He's still there.
Okay. Well, since he's getting into making brass chassis, look at this. I'm in the process of making this right now.
A wire bender?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And it works beautiful.
Oh wow! It looks like you're making like an exhaust system for a car. That's kind of like the same.
Yeah, I don't think it'll bend piano wire.
Yeah.
Yes, it will.
All right, we look forward
supposedly up to 055.
Wow.
All right.
Stick with the pliers, Dennis.
Yeah.
Looking forward to your show and tell on that contraption and how well it works.
I'd like to see it bending 055 wire.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right, good stuff, Alan. And it looks like we are ready to move to Club Corner. If you have any Club Corner, past, present, or future, more than one person racing a car by themselves activity, now is the time to share it. So raise your virtual hand or wave your real hand, and I'll try to call on you. Otherwise, we'll open the floor, or I'll pick a topic from my grab bag o topics. Mike, go ahead.
Well, I got back to racing after being sort of gone for a couple of weeks, and we did. I got a couple of Polycar F1s, and I really had a good time with those. Even with the stock tires, surprisingly, they went quite well. Really enjoyed it. The video is up on the channel. And then we did some Carreras, and I had a little bit of interesting problems there. So it was fun, but exacerbating it, just terrible.
Exasperating.
Absolutely terrible.
What happened?
Exasperating was the word I was looking for.
What happened with
exacerbated?
Yeah. It was exacerbated by the problems we had with the software. We had some problems with Mike, the other Mike, trying to get fuel fill and stuff like that. Kind of ruined my race back and forth with damage and all kinds of other stuff. So it was difficult but interesting nonetheless.
Mike, what's your YouTube channel?
Road America Northwest. So
I put a link in previous videos, but if you want to drop a link into the chat, I'll be sure and put it in the description. But yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I just put up the videos of the races that I do. Although I don't know if Jeremy's here today, but I put one up for him on the new Sky Electric 3.0 RSR Porsche. Just essentially stock with its 13.5mm wide tires. I mean, it's just, but they're very slippery, so it doesn't make any difference.
I was gonna say, but
we'd be better off with narrower ones, but stickier.
You pulled the magnet out,
but
right?
it seems like a nice car.
That was with no magnets?
No magnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to do a comparison between some of the Trans Am cars because he wants to run something different in Trans Am. And I had a Challenger that I put up against it, and they ran pretty close to the same times, although the Challenger was quite much improved from original. It was dropped quite a bit and had aluminum wheels and that kind of stuff. But the Porsche ran pretty close, and it's 10 grams lighter than the Challenger was. So, and that Challenger even has the lower part of the interior cutaway for weight and movement. So, you know, it's even that much more lighter than the original one. So, yeah, a 10-gram difference in it. Oh God.
So it sounds like the Porsche with a little tweaking can probably do well against it.
Yeah. It's pretty with some of the Formula One tires, if you get those to fit on there, would work pretty well. So yeah. That was Garth's drawing for when I only had one eye.
Thanks, Garth. Yeah, so
anyway,
help me out. Drop a link to your channel or to one of those videos in the chat, and I'll be sure and put it in the description.
Okay.
So thanks for sharing that, Mike. And Jim, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
There was no slot car race last weekend. It was the first time in a long time there was not a slot car race, whether HO or 32nd scale or whatever in Northern California. So I had to find something else to do. So I went to Sonoma Raceway, and we had vintage racing. And one of the reasons that we're with Vlad in that 510, getting it on the hopefully the Revo slot chassis, is that there's a class in vintage racing in Northern California called the John Morton. Well, actually throughout California, it's called the John Morton Cup. And I think you can kind of guess what that is. And so we want to be able to recreate that whole field with Revo slots. We need the 510. So that's my plea, is the 510 on a Revo slot would be awesome.
Yeah.
And if for those of you that like these cars, next week at Laguna Seca, not this weekend, but a week from this weekend, is the Velocity Invitational. And they have an under 2.5 liter Trans Am category. And I don't think they're going to be racing, but they are going to have the original factory 510 with John Morton, and the original, I think it's the Horst Quack Alpha. So they typically get 25 to 35 of these cars.
Wow.
They're not historic, in my opinion. They're vintage because some of them have just been built, but they're really cool. At the race this last weekend, there were 4 or 5 BRE clones. There was a Paul Newman Datsun 510 clone, the liver that he ran when he started racing, and a bunch of Alphas, a few BMWs. So it's a great class. So we definitely want that. So that was my weekend. I had to go to real car races and take pictures.
Poor baby.
Nice.
That's it.
That's awesome, Jim. That's great.
Yeah, I love the 510, or they call it the John Morton Cup. It's a great event. They race in Northern California or throughout California. They also have another one, if you're into Formula Fords, it's called the Crossflow Cup. and they have two divisions in that for different eras of Formula Fords. And so those two classes really race. You know, most of the vintage, it's kind of a show and tell. They race, but they're not really door to door with these guys in these two classes because these cars are replaceable. They race them.
Jim, if you can, send me dimensions of the chassis and then the relatively to the overall of the chassis, wheelbase and supports, and I'll get it out to you with bumpers and without bumpers ASAP.
I've got to buy one. I don't have one. I've been having to buy
Phil's
one.
ready to go.
Phil's got
Sitting here, mate.
back, Jim. Phil's got your back, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would guess it would fit best on the Escort as opposed to the Alpha.
I thought they were both the same, but mine measures
They're both the
75
same.
mil.
There's no difference.
Right.
There's no difference.
Which
They
one?
are, they're as close to identical as you can get.
Which ones?
In terms of the dimensions. The only thing that might be a little different is the chassis on the front of the shape of the chassis at the front, just in front of the guide.
That one's the Alpha, Dennis.
You'll need to hold that up a little.
It's kind of like the Thunderslot chassis. They're identical except for a few little details in the front of it.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think there's any difference when you look at it. But, there's a very slight difference at the front. The Escort has little ears either side of the front wheels, head of the front wheels. Yeah,
I see. Yep.
There you can see it. For the rest, I think it's pretty much the same stuff.
I'll put it on the scanner, Vlad, and send you the scan of it after.
Oh, that'd be awesome, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, be tonight when I get back from lunch.
No problem.
Awesome, guys.
The only thing you've got to think about, is when you put the posts in. If we're not going to have the little rubber cups that fit over the posts, that the rear posts are a little longer than the front posts because the front posts are a little higher up in the chassis because of the way that the chassis is two levels.
I see. Well, look, I'll leave them long. Just chop them off.
Said Michael? Is he showing?
Yeah, that's me. I've got both of them. The Escort is on the on my left.
Yeah.
It's just got those little ears at the front of it. While the
Yeah,
Alpha is straight front.
Yeah. I don't know how well you've got them aligned because the Escort looks ever so slightly shorter in that, but maybe not. Yeah. And width-wise, I think they're the same too.
You're right. You're right, Dennis. It is shorter. Very, very, very close, though. I'll measure it.
Jim, what about a BMW 2002?
Revo Slot's going to make that.
Oh, okay.
So it's not quite as a necessity because they're going to, I think by the end of the year, they said they were making that. So the Datsun 510 is the one that would be the popular one. And there's a bunch of others. 240
or 260 as well? That's it?
Not for this class, but yeah, that would be a good one too.
Yeah.
Because the sedan class, they're all kind of based on the same chassis and there's the Volvos have raced in that.
Didn't
just
have
about
flares
everybody
though,
raced in that at one time. Pintos, Vegas,
RX3s,
RX2s, RX3s. Yeah.
So Vlad, you're saying you just want to be even busier. Is that what you're saying?
Still have to get back to drawing the Maserati that everyone wanted.
A6 GCS.
Beg your pardon?
The A6.
Oh, the A6 as well. Yeah, I should have that. The A86. That's right. I've got.
That was easy. You only had to hollow that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll chip in the $5 for your carpal tunnel.
Dennis, the Escort or the Alpha is 2 millimeters shorter.
Okay. So it's like 74 or
the Alpha is the shorter of them, 2 millimeters.
Interesting.
I disagree with you there.
You're talking about the chassis plate? Are you talking about the chassis plate or the
I'm talking about chassis full length.
Oh, yeah, maybe. The wheelbase, those might be a little different.
I think it's the same. They're 76, I think.
Yeah.
No, definitely not.
I was going to say,
if we're going crazy,
if you're measuring things, make sure you're measuring the same thing.
if we're going crazy, this is a favorite of mine too.
Can I just say that? Oh, look at
74.6 wheelbase on the Alpha.
So from center to center.
Center
that.
to center of the
I've done that
wheels.
car already. I've done that already.
Yeah.
Should have a body.
And the Escort's longer.
Jim, don't you have to have flames coming out of the back of that car?
Yeah, they do have the flames coming out the back. That car actually won a race though.
Mike, you're absolutely right. The Alpha is ever so slightly shorter than in wheelbase than the Escort. Certainly the two that I have in front of me.
I really hope no one cuts into this video at this point without context with a whole bunch of men measuring something. This is weird.
And what we do have to remember is the chassis has got a little bit back and forth movement, so the wheelbase actually varies a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine's a silly millimeter long.
Phil, you're right. 74.6 on the Alpha and 75.06 is what I have on the Escort. So just slightly longer, but the overall length of the chassis is what I was measuring.
Yes.
And that's 2 millimeters different. So there's a little bit of longer front plate on
Is
the
guide lead different? Is the guide lead different?
Oh.
You guys.
I was about to mention guide lead. I was wondering how long it took.
Yeah, 3 different guys.
Now, quick, get a scale because Wayne's going to want to know how much it weighs.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the guide lead is quite a bit different actually. The Alpha is longer, believe it or not.
So target the
75.
The Alpha is looking at around
75, Dennis.
Yeah, I'm just measuring off the little ear on the front of the chassis, and that's 74. And on the Escort, it is. Hang on, no, the Escort's longer.
Yeah,
76.
the Escort is longer.
The Escort's longer.
I was going to dispute that because I had them both here, and it's like, wait a minute, the Escort is a little longer.
Yeah, no, the Escort is longer. Yeah,
longer.
If I lay them next to each other with the guides in the same spot, then you could see that the Escort is definitely longer. But it's only maybe 2 millimeters.
So
yeah,
if we all meet in person, do we all have to carry calipers? Like
yes, John.
Yes,
of course,
and a loop and tweezers.
Mine's bigger than yours, John.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is.
Mine's a silly millimeter longer.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that.
Yeah, but the Escort's been replaced with a prosthetic.
The wheelbase on the Datsun full size, I've got at 24-15 millimeters. So, hang on.
Come on, where's your calculator?
It's righty.
I don't expect it to be
so
scaled.
75.468. 469. So 75.5.
So I'm
but
looking at
closer. So what's closer to that?
Sorry, I moved away for a moment, so I'm not sure what was being asked.
Oh, it should be. Oh, there you go. Hang on, Phil. What do you got it at? What's that?
I haven't measured it. I've just put the Volvo chassis, the Alpha chassis. Now that's a David Renke resin casting.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got John Warren's version of that.
That's the same thing, Dennis.
Right.
David
and
Renke.
It matches with the Escort better than it matches with the Alpha.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Alpha is too short, but the Escort chassis is perfect for that.
Vlad's body's coming up with a wheel well base of about 75 point. Did you say 75 and a half?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's 76, quite honestly. But
yeah,
I think I built my scratch built under John's 510 to 76, and it fits very nicely.
Yeah, well, John's is a recast of David's. He took over some of David's castings, and Dave gave it up.
Yeah,
and
Well, I can rescale the body that fraction to work on the Alpha chassis if you want.
Well, they're both available, so I don't see why we need to.
I was gonna say, why not?
Everyone will run the Escort chassis anyhow because it's longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Michael, which one of the two runs best on your track?
Oh, they're so close. It's go watch the video. The Escort did win the first time out, but you know, the driving makes a huge difference. So I found the Escort to be a little more tail happy than the Alpha, but that was just the first day that I had run it. So you know, it's really hard to tell. I hadn't really tuned it at all.
Isn't the Escort a little more tall and narrow and more tippy?
And the Alpha benefits from the fact that the whole car is just a little bit lower. It's not a lot, but and I think the weight distribution of the body is slightly different.
Yeah, that speaks directly to what I imagine, that the Alpha should be a slightly squatter body shell compared to an Escort. I'm thinking about the full size cars, never having had the BRM in my hand. It's not a BRM.
It's a Revo slot.
Now, that's the word that wouldn't come to me.
Same company.
Michael, if you were going to get the body, what parts would you want? You want the body? You want a buck for the glass, or do you want separate bumpers? What do you want? Separate flares, or just keep the flares on? Rear wing? I don't know.
It's getting the flares wide enough to sit over the chassis, Vlad. That's a bit of the problem because these things are fairly wide.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I'll scan it and send it to you. So you can have a look.
They're wide over the wheels, but they're not very wide over the chassis. The chassis itself is only about 43 millimeters wide.
Okay.
But over the wheel, across the outside of the wheels, the way they are in stock form, they're like 52 millimeters. 52.2 up front.
Yeah, 52, that's really wide for a 32 scale car, not?
Well, and the Alpha is 54 across the front and 53 across the back, just as I measured it. And that's as they come stock.
Well, look, the more dimensions, the better. The better I can make it work.
All right.
I love the way that you actually model the motor in the chassis so that you can make sure the body shell won't hit the motor.
Yeah, I can do that. If
Mike, did you have something else that you wanted to bring up, or was that hand up first?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Well, then the floor is open for the last 15 minutes. Anybody got anything they want to bring up? Any topics?
Actually, I've got news for Club Corner. As you may well remember, last week I spoke about.
I've got to go.
Race.
Hey, Phil.
See you later.
Go ahead, Wayne.
So I've put the phone in the chat so that I can do the usual share my gallery thing. And I'll start with the track. A few photographs, come on, that I took of the layout that we were racing on in the North Staff Sky Electric Racing Club last weekend. It's a venue I'd never been to before.
I mean, right now I'm looking at your face. So. Oh,
sorry. I thought I'd got a screen share going. So forgive me a moment. Let me get back to the chat.
And your nice robe comes sleep.
Yeah, looks comfy.
Smoking jacket.
So if I press share, screen, and start now. Now we're running, aren't we?
Yep.
There's the track, or part of the track. It was difficult to get it all into one picture, but your typical 4-lane Ninko. A lot of corners in this track. One hugely long straight, longer than the one I think that we experienced at Rockingham, though I didn't go out counting the track pieces, most unlike me. A really nice left, right, left complex in the towards the through there, with the pit lane that was limited to 20% power. And when you cross this double white line at the entry to pits, the car would slow down to a pace that you could actually pin the throttle all the way through the pit lane, all the way to your teammate. And of course, there was a benefit to picking the car off the track on this corner and putting it back on the track on the far corner, because you would gain a second or so of drive time. And then that went down to the far end into a nice big looping left-hander, and then back towards yourself, towards yourself in this picture on the long main straight. And directly opposite the driver's stand, there is a screen, if you've got eyes good enough to see it. There was another one in the pit area. These are just some general views of what we did. And what we did was 2 times 6 hours. There's the other race. There's the other screen for the people in the paddock. And I don't know if that's the last one of those. Yes, because now we get onto the boring pictures, which is all the race results screens. I'll just show this one. Some of you will have seen it already. But this is the results from qualifying. An hour long it was, and best single lap to count. The number of laps is up to the team, however much they want to do. But as you can see, we're in the mid-high 7s for the quickest laps and the mid-8s for the slowest laps. So there's about 1 second there covering the whole field. This is the car that I was driving along with 2 teammates, not built or prepared by myself. And these photos were actually taken at the 6-hour mark, where the first half of the race was completed. And we took these because this was about all we were allowed to do. There was no tinkering. As you can see, we've already lost light lenses from the front. The wing is now secured with some, it's black blue tack, for want of a better description, but we had lost the wing a couple of times, and this was the quick fix that had managed to re-secure it to the body shell. Lights are still functional. And what we noticed overnight that became highly relevant in the second half of the race was that this front right wheel was exterior to the body shell. Now, this indicated to us that we were losing the front wheel. And when we came back to restart the race on the Sunday morning, we decided that might fall off, but until it does, we'll just keep doing laps. Now, it did fall off, and we did switch them to aluminium wheels and continued and finished the race with aluminium wheels with the grub screw. So I managed to was there a question there? No. Managed to get some photographs of the other cars while they were in Parc Fermé overnight. And I have a question as a result of seeing this one. Does anyone recognize the chassis base plate? It's got a nice 3-dimensional element where the sides of the chassis are slightly raised. The screw holes are particularly a neat fit around the screw heads. And I just wondered whether anybody recognized either the mechanism that was used for, because it's not FDM, it's not got the surface finish of FDM prints. So I think it's some form of
SLS prints by the looks.
I like Shapeways.
Yeah. And it's, it could be Shapeways, but I don't know who might have designed it, whether it's available as a product. The car in question is a Toyota TS050. You'll see that when I show you the general picture of what the other side of the lineup of cars. Here we've got a Scale Auto, which just had a slotted motor pod installed. Sidewinder MX-16 motor in that one. I think that's a Viper.
Yep.
This is a Racer Sideways, I suspect, or I'm pretty certain. This one's an angle winder, slotted flat 6. And of course, that's got the motor hole upward. So that's a regulation for this class. You can either use the MX-16 or the flat 6, and both were used. We can see some damage on the motor wrapper where it's been striking the rails and running as low as it can. Of course, our rear tires change in diameter during the endurance race. Back out. Next one is our car. This one has a 3D print, FDM produced by one of the drivers in the team. This one's got the motor the other way up because it's an LMP1 car and it has slightly more magnetic downforce. It's actually an Aston Martin Racing Lola from last raced at Le Mans in 2011. And at this point in time, it's still got the 3D printed front wheels on that were beginning to come off that we noticed after 6 hours. This is a 3D printed Ford GT body shell.
It looks very much the same as that other one.
The material looks to be, and the finish on it looks to be, like you've just said, the same as that other one.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what manufacturer it is. Obviously, MX-16 Sidewinder. Looks like it's a 0.75 offset motor pod. And I think this is a Corvette, a Scale Auto Corvette. And this is interesting to me because I think I've only ever seen 2 cars entered into this category with an angle winder FC130. And this was the car that Alan raced, although I don't think he actually prepared this one. I think he showed us a Ferrari from Black Arrow that he prepared, but the team didn't choose to race that. They raced this. And as you can see, look at the braid, pretty torn up, pretty out of shape. 6 hours of running and racing and crashing and banging and one thing and another had done that to it. And then we've got a Pro Speed SLS printed shapeways chassis under I think it's a Sky Electric Ford GT body shell. Similar, very, very similar to a car that I've raced in the past, but not the same. And there we've got a stock slotted. Off the top of my head, I can't remember. This is LMP1. Can't remember what body this was. This might have been Audi R8, I think. But let's look at the cars from a different view. Yeah, there it is. It's the Audi.
It's the Audi. Yeah.
The little white boxes you see there contain each team's control handout tires. So you basically take a pair of wheels to the box, put the tires on the wheels and pop them in the box. And then if and when you want to do wheel and tire changes during the race, because you're running out of ground clearance or whatever, then you'll pick a pair from there and you'll take them. Well, actually, you'll pick the car up from pit lane, bring it to this bench and do the wheel change on this bench and pop the car back into pit lane. There's another shot. So
nice.
I took this one, particular interest to us of our condition of our rear tires. I was interested to take a look at.
Is that coming off the rim at the top left there?
Well, they're not allowed. We're not allowed to glue them to the rims.
Oh, wow.
This is, I suppose it's to do with the fact that we can do a quick tire change that way. But yeah, it's one of the peculiar regulations that we're not allowed to glue them to the wheel rims. So we have to rely on the fact that we are stretching the tire to some extent to make them stay on the wheels. So you can get this tire and pop it on a 15.8 wheel and it will look okay. And if you glued it, it would stay there. But we almost exclusively avoid using that wheel diameter because, as I understand it, and I've never seen it happen in person, they have a tendency to come off, particularly as they get thinner, as they get worn. So most teams are running a 16.5 or 17.3 kind, or even a 16.9 in some cases, wheel diameter. So at the end of the first 6 hour, I think that might be that screen. Yes, it is. I'm pleased to say that the team that I was driving with, Wolves, the LMP1, which is red on the screen there, was leading the race with 2,430 laps, and it was close with I think one of the others, one of the Scale Autos, I think, was in the second place there. Garage 27 ran the Ford GT in purple with the Sky Electric body shell. And several teams had problems that meant that they were close to retirement, or they hadn't at this stage retired. But come Sunday, some of them had actually retired because they just fixed their car until they could fix it no more. Now, these photographs are taken of our car at the end of the race. And during the second 6 hour, we lost both of the light buckets came out of the front of the body shell and ended up having to be re-glued into place. We'd lost the front grille out of the body shell. In doing the repair to the light buckets, we also managed to push the front windscreen inside of the body shell. So what you see there is a piece of sellotape that's holding the front windscreen back in the car, because that's a mandatory required part. We'd replaced the wing, even though it was blue tacked, about 3 or 4 times, and we increased the quantity of blue tack that we used on each stop. And as you can see, after 12 hours of running, we got quite a beaten up car. And the truth of the matter is that between us, we led the race until the 11th hour had passed. But 20 minutes into the 12th hour, we lost our front light setup. And so the car had to be removed from the track because it's a mandatory requirement that you have a light, at least one, front and rear. And we lost both fronts. And we spent the whole of the last 40 minutes of the race attempting to get our lights to illuminate again. And this is how the car ended the race. And in that last 40 minutes, we managed to go from leading the race with a 145 lap lead to 5th overall.
Oh,
and first in class, because we were the only LMP that was still running in the 11th hour. The other two had both retired. As you can see, we've now got different front wheels on.
So
I took the photographs mainly for reference. Sorry, Dennis?
That last hour that you were running, was it supposed to be in darkness? Do you have to have a
No.
light available at all times?
That's just a regular, daylight or night time. This event didn't actually have any darks running, but the regulation set that we use was the same as the 24-hour race that we do, which does go into darkness. We also run some races at Rockingham that occasionally go into darkness. Again, this is just a sprangle of wires that we ended up with at the end of the race, and you can see lots of tire debris, marbles build up, not only on the chassis, but also in the body. That's how the wing ended up, a little bit more black tack. Even though we've got 4 fixing points, there were only friction fits in the beginning. We didn't want the wing to break, so it wasn't glued in. It was just a case of drive it well enough and you won't break the wing off. But unfortunately, digital slot car racing, when there was 10 cars doing laps on a track that was taking about 8 seconds a lap, you just have incidents that you get involved in, and you don't feel as though you were responsible for them. You'll just hit a car that's in the middle of its own crash and things like that.
We're at our 2 hours. Do you want to wrap this up for us?
Sure thing. Let me go back and just check whether there's anything else of interest. I took this one. This is a picture of us, the car, in front of race control on the wood track. The wood track is underneath the plastic track. It's all been torn down, taken away. But the detail, once that happened, and I wasn't driving on it anymore, the detail of the track became obvious to me, and there's a race control. So, yeah, we got North Staff's 66 2022 LMP1 class win, which is great because it was a brand new chassis, never been raced before, and it was quick. It just didn't quite have the required reliability. And that was the story of my last weekend.
And even though you had to retire it early, you still won the class.
We won the class because we were the last LMP1 category car that was running. All the others had been fixed too many times by that time.
Yeah, a win's a win. All right. Good
It would have been nice to have won overall, but
Yeah.
yeah, because we were on for it. But next time, perhaps.
That's what endurance racing is all about.
Can I just show you guys something?
Okay,
We're
go
talking
ahead.
about those pods.
Yep.
This is one that's been shared around, but as you said, that pod with those little bevels looks like it could have been the same guy who created this.
Which bevels? The
These
the
here
bevels
on the edge.
Yeah, well, that's traditional. That's typical. The slotted one has those.
Oh, okay. Well, look like someone's modeled that really nicely. That's how a lot of people are doing the TinkerCAD chassis.
Yeah.
You know, they'll join whatever they need at whatever distance they need. That's as a spacer, and then print it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite clever, isn't it? Just to be able to adjust the chassis to suit.
I think Paul, I think you guys know him as Chappie Man 6069 or 66.
Chappie.
I think this is one of his files, or one that he's found. I think he's created this one.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the nice things about 3D printing is just being able to.
Oh, isn't it great?
All right, so we're at the end of our 2 hours. I'm going to hit the stop button, but of course we'll keep chatting. But until next week, everybody say goodbye. And I have it stop. Bye.